New effects only cost $30,000. Alright, everybody, it's Skwatter from the Sprites Templar coming back at nobody, more like it, because ain't nobody watches these shows. But, that's unfair because I recently scored a new in-person subscriber, which was pretty awesome. Thanks, buddy. But, yeah, no, so, here we are once again, a lot sooner than later compared to my rather spotty upload schedule. We've got Phantasy Star 4, Generation 4, version 8.5 Purist. Um, yes, this is a fan translation of the original game, also includes a whole bunch of bug fixes. Uh, well, yeah, so this is basically how they thought the game should have been there. And, now that I see it, it says Chaz, a few times, not a whole lot of times, but a few times they forgot to replace his name because he's supposed to be called Chaz, but sometimes they say Rudy, which was his original North American translated name, or maybe that was the original name in the original game. I'm not entirely sure, but it's kind of excusable because of the size of the script, especially compared to Phantasy Star 3. But mm, a simple again, I don't know how translating would work in terms of a game's hex code. I would have to assume that every bit of text is in some way just represented by its actual editable text equivalent, as if it were a Microsoft Notepad file. But who knows, right? But the thing is that a few times during cutscenes where you think that extra care would be employed to make sure that everything is just in tip-top shape, they did actually make the mistake of not replacing Chaz's name. So they say, "Good job, Rudy," and I'm just like, "What? Who the hell is Rudy?" So, but yeah, no, as you can see, like just coming right up here, the character portraits are definitely a really nice addition there. I would have appreciated more character portraits, if they were angry or scared or joyful or that sort of thing, just to denote a little bit more emotion. But still, the character portraits are definitely a welcome change, and you will also see that there's a great deal more detail in the environments. Especially indoors compared to, well, both indoors and outdoors compared to Phantasy Star 3, where basically everything was an empty, cavernous North Korean Potemkin style village. Now there's tables, chairs, bookcases, sideboards. There are more and different kinds of beds and night tables and like kitchenware, like sinks and stuff like that, and you can walk up and identify everything and get Chaz's or somebody else's impression of what they're looking at, which is basically what I did a lot of the time. Honestly, I would always I would always wrestle with the controls because if you run into a wall, you'll immediately start going up, down, left, or right, depending on whatever kind of direction the game chooses to give you. So I would always find myself wrestling with the controls in order to make sure that I see. Look, I'm loaded up with stuff. Yeah, and but yeah, no. So that's pretty cool, and a whole lot more variation in people. The sprites are a lot more colorful. I really like this layout a lot better. It's a lot more like the first and second game. The first game being on the Master System and the second game being on the Genesis, like this one. It's certainly a return to form that is more, shall we say, regular amongst the games series. Although at this point that there were only 4 games. If you don't want to include all of the text-based adventures that were on the Game Gear, which I don't think I'm honestly going to play. I'm not super huge fan of that sort of that kind of gameplay. But yeah, I would absolutely say that this is a prime example of how role-playing games, at least 16-bit from the time, should have been done. Like, you can walk around, investigate things, talk to all these different people. Sometimes they'd have multiple different dialogue trees and stuff like that. I really like the addition of the Hunters Guild, although I didn't complete all of the uh, Hunters Guild quests that you could have done. In fact, I don't think I even went to the town of Uzo, which I'm not necessarily sure why that's there or what would have happened there. Maybe again it was one of those Hunters Guild quests things, but yeah, no. So this is Phantasy Star 4, and on the box it says the explosive finale. Really? Yikes. You're ending your one flagship role playing series on your or your at least current gen 16-bit console, and you're ending it at the fourth entry. It's like, I know that some series kind of go on for way too long, but the simple fact of the matter is that well, RPGs at around this time, 1994 or so, 1993 and 1995 actually, Japan in 1993 and 1995 in North America and Europe. So yeah, this was just at the cusp of the 32-bit systems coming over the horizon when a year or so later, role-playing games would be going nuclear at this point. So yeah, what with the Saturn coming out pretty soon as around when this game was released, yeah, you really dropped the ball on this one, Sega. You could have continued Phantasy Star like they continued Final Fantasy and everything. You could have, like on new Saturn hardware, or even like they could have even made it like a Sega CD game. I honestly, I think that it's like something like Phantasy Star 4. This should have been a CD game at very least, if it wasn't to be on the Saturn anyways. But because I like these cutscenes here. Yeah, they're very cinematic. They add a whole lot more depth to storytelling and everything. I like how I like the artistic license, the style of drawing and everything. And this is I think her name is, what is it? Before I get this all wrong here, I'm just looking up. Uh, Alice Brangwyn. I guess that would be her name here, and that's Han that you're meeting there. Now, I give the game respect in that it treats death seriously, at least in this case. Like, it's a permadeath when it comes to, spoiler alert, Alice Brangwyn. Um, Definitely a permadeath. There is no like resurrecting her. There is no meeting her spirit later on or something. In fact, I think that after she dies, you only see maybe a fleeting image of her when you get Elicidian or whatever the name of the sword that you get is. Um, and I mean, you talk a lot more to the original Alice from or Alyssa or whatever her name is from the first game, which I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm familiar with her, but these characters aren't. It's like, I mean, when you see Alice's statue, it's almost as if Chaz had never ever heard of her or seen her before. He's very unfamiliar with her, if at all, you know. So, but I would say Alice Brangwyn's death was very much so a throwaway. It did not need to happen. Um, and the reason why I think this is because she gets unceremoniously killed by Zio, a very low level, low tier antagonist that comes into the game very early on and gets his ass kicked and dies permanently very early on as well in the game. And he uses this either evil like dark wave spell, and like Alice runs in front of Chaz to defend him from the blast and everything, and she's severely injured, so Han takes her back to his hometown where he's trying to care for her, and they say that we need to get the Psycho Wand Rune, who turns out to be maybe a reincarnation of Lutz from the first game. He says we need to get the Psycho Wand in order to heal her, so that entire fetch quest was completely pointless because she ends up dying anyways. And it's unfortunate because this game suffers from another one of the problems that Phantasy Star 3 suffers from, which is, and you can see me speeding up and having a turbo function, which I just figured out how to use on RetroArch in order to get everybody's level up super fast. Yeah, sorry for that interruption, but yeah, no, Phantasy Star 4 unfortunately suffers from one of the problems from Phantasy Star 3 in that there are your party is way too undersaturated. Like, I think you've got maybe 8 or 9 playable characters throughout the course of the game. I think that they are Chaz, Alice, Han, Rune, Grizz, or Grise, or whatever you want to call him. Then there's Demi and Ren and Raja. And then I think there's Kyra. I think that might be it. I've got 9 listed there, but uh, the thing is that none of them are really super fleshed out. They never really stick with your party for very long. They don't really have a whole lot of personality, especially given the fact that 2 of them are cyborgs or androids, like Demi and Ren, who I was also confused because they kept calling him Foreign, which I thought was also another translation error with the fan translation, but could be wrong there. But yeah, none of the characters really stick around long enough. They don't really have a whole lot of personality to them. Like Grizz is basically must defend family, and Demi's like, yeah, I'm just like gonna work on computers, and Ren is like, I'm a soulless cyborg, so, or like an android or some shit like that, right? Uh, Han, like he's more fleshed out than normal, but again, he fucks off from the party very early on and everything, and so yeah, I mean, like your main party members seem to be Rune, Alice, Chaz, and Han for the longest time. But then, as I said, Alice dies unceremoniously, right? Which was a huge slap in the face because, again, she's got a personality. You know, even though this is a fan translation, and I've seen in reviews that they turned her into more of a quote-unquote bitch than anything else. I wouldn't say that she was antisocial or cruel or anything like that, narcissistic a little bit maybe, but and maybe that has changed since those reviews because they were for earlier patch versions, but I thought that it was a gigantic slap in the face to, not to repeat myself, but because it's like she just disappears from the game entirely, and she's only mentioned by name maybe a few times after that, and then right near the end of the game, which is a kind of funny thing. You are faced, like you go to the anger tower on Rickros, and you are faced with a familiar of her, or a doppelganger, or whatever you want to say, a projection of her, and you know, I understand what the game is trying to do. It's supposed to say, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to test your anger. I'm going to test you and see like if you're going to give in to hate and attack or kill your former best friend and mentor. And but you know, it's very sudden and there's not a whole lot of dialogue. It's just basically, no, Alice, no, quit pushing me. No, I don't want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then you get into a fight with her, which I was kind of scared because I'm just like, huh, am I going to have to go into the cheat menu and take off her infinite health cheat that I had going on? But no, as it turns out, it's a different hex value, so I was able to beat her and stuff. And that test, you know, like the sort of Dagobah test, I guess you could call it, doesn't necessarily go down the way you would expect it to, right? Like maybe like it could have been more like Lunar the Silver Star, like when Luna in her evil form is like striking Alex with lightning, and you know you're supposed to play your harmonica or your harp or whatever, or an ocarina. It changes depending on the version you play. Um, but no, you just basically get into a fight with her, you destroy her, and then that's it. You know, it's not, it's like there's no profoundness, there's no thought-provoking speech coming after it. There's no heart-wrenching soliloquy about it. You know, you don't get to talk to her at all. That's why I said, like, definitely the game respects permadeaths, which is pretty hard to come by nowadays in recent media, whether it's TV, movies, or video games, books as well, because people just basically shrug off lethal injuries like they were a mosquito bite essentially, which is kind of lame. But again, it's like they put a whole I and every other player would put a whole lot of investment into the character of Alice Brangwyn, and as stated, it was just a colossal slap in the face to just have her unceremoniously and uselessly, senselessly killed off by such a stupid little inconsequential low tier bad guy that you end up beating almost immediately after. And guess what? He uses the same move again. He uses the same spell, that dark wave or whatever. And like, yeah, it kills your guys, but you can just easily use like a whatever a pick me up is called in this game, like a, I don't know, like monomate, trimate, or whatever. I don't really use items because I don't really need to, because I increase the health and magic points to the max and I freeze them there. I find that that's just micromanaging to do anything else. And what he's doing now, mailbox is nothing for us though. But it's like I thought that maybe throughout the game, since they added things like optional things like the hunting guild, like maybe you could have gotten like mail or something, or maybe like it could have been like frequency, like maybe Alice was sending you letters from beyond the grave or something like that. Just neat little things like that. But yeah, that was a great big slap in the face. God, I'm saying that so often. It's like the hockey player says everything like that. But no, it definitely. I guess the game certainly succeeded in having me warm up to her and invest in her character. But yeah, it's sort of like you know sort of like killing off like one of the favorite characters of the series and not really giving a crap about it, right? Um, like maybe Han could have died, really. Like, it still would have affected you. Like Han was like a funny character, he had like cutscenes and different like art scenes that were animated and stuff like that. Uh, but no, they just had to do that, and I thought that was in poor taste and highly illogical. So uh, I kind of would have liked maybe a bit of a hack. It would have to be a pretty substantial hack with a lot more writing, lot more dialogue, a lot more uh, cinematic scenes and stuff like that. But I would like it if one of the other different characters died, uh, other than Alice, because the biggest thing is, I just remember this, the biggest friggin' problem is that at the end of the game, you have 5 party slots. You end up having 5 party slots maximum. And after all these guys have come and gone, you now have 4 main characters, but you have 1 empty slot in which you have to select one of your leftover characters to fill that spot there. I chose Raja. I just kind of felt that he was the other than the main characters, he was just the second most fleshed out, the most personable. I like making stupid jokes and everything. Um, so I kind of saw a little bit of myself in him. But at the end of the game, it's like you have a 5th empty slot. If Alice was alive, that wouldn't have been a problem, right? It's like, or you could have done what they did in, and I know that this game didn't come out at the time, but I mean, it's like it would have been extremely forward thinking had they done it. And besides, like they did it with subsequent Final Fantasy games, you could have had them switchable. It's like you could have had them as a always available roster that you could have just gone into like the start menu and always had access to them, right? So it's like you could have had 9 different selectable players for each of your 5 slots, and you could have all these different uh, combinations of party members basically at your fingertips wherever you were throughout the game, like they were doing, as I said, in Final Fantasy and Super Mario RPG, which, mind you, is a very simple well, not bare bones, but I mean it's a very simple game in terms of like sort of like a good beginner's RPG, sort of like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, but Mystic Quest, sorry. And but yeah, I mean, it's like, when Sega tries to do things like, especially um, home video games, they sometimes get it uh, nearing right, but not always. And this definitely falls short in terms of this game. In terms of my opinion of this game, like, you should have had 9 selectable players. Like, you should have just been able to bank them all, like you did, in Fantasy Stars. At least Fantasy Star 2, if I remember that. Like, they would all hang out at your house in Paseo or wherever. Um, and like, you could have fleshed them all out and everything, and like, again, the game would have probably needed to have had an extra megabyte or something, so a 4 megabyte cartridge, which would have made it more expensive. But I mean, it's already a 32, or no, a 24 megabyte cartridge, megabit cartridge, sorry. I always get those mixed up. So it's already expensive anyways, right? So, but I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that people would be willing to pay that extra money for all these extra features, quality of life improvements, and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, no. I guess I'll harp on it again. I really didn't like the fact that they did that. That was a big time. They really missed the point on this one. They dropped the ball, I would say. Uh, but yeah, no. So, long ass diatribe there. But I guess, as I said, the game really succeeds in making endearing characters. So, but yeah, no, as I said, the graphical assets are very good, I would say. I think this is Motavia, because Palma got destroyed in the last game. So I guess that's now been worked into canon, because this retranslation, this fan translation, really reconnected it with the previous games, because that was all kind of ambiguous in the original release. Um, and I was actually thinking of purchasing these games, the Phantasy Stars, on Genesis, finding cheap cartridge-only copies and things like that. But now that I look into their history and realize that the original games were released very buggy and everything, I was just thinking, what, it's better just to play these fan translations with streamlined bug fixes and quality of life improvements. So that's why I decided to play these next several games on emulators instead of the Mega SD or the Mega EverDrive Pro, like how I played Crusader of Senti or Beyond Oasis. Uh, I would say the graphical assets, as I said, are pretty good, but the stores still need more detail. Like, I mean, you come in there, they look infinitely better than the empty, bleak, cavernous garbage that was in Phantasy Star 3. But it's like every store and shop just basically looks like somebody's house, with just like a right angle counter, a person standing on it, maybe some bookcases or some sideboards in the background. And then I think, it's like, you could have made sprites for swords, shields, boots, armor, that sort of thing, right? Just to, like, because I mean, if you're going to have interior locations that you can walk around in, like when you go to shops and everything, like, some games don't have that, right? I believe in, well, and as I said, I played the PS2 remakes of the first 2 games, but in those games, well, in the first game, like, you would walk in and it would be more of like a single scene. You would walk into the shop and, you'd see the guy there, and he'd be surrounded by all these, if it was a tool store, you'd be surrounded by tools, armor surrounded by armor, and weapons surrounded by weapons, right? So if you're going to have interior environments for your stores, you may as well decorate them properly, right? So as you can see, it's just 2 right angle counters with 2 people standing at them, nothing really denoting that they're shops other than those little signs that they have on the houses there, uh, which is, nice and everything. Well, I guess necessary, but still nice. Um, but yeah, no. So the graphics are a lot better. Still leave a bit to be desired. The ice digger. and the impactor, which basically like destroys like sand dunes or something. Then there's the ice digger, and then the hovercraft. I find that the hovercraft, like while it goes over water, is kind of redundant. Well, the hovercraft is not necessarily redundant, but I think that the impactor, which basically allows you to travel across land really fast, is in fact redundant when it comes to the fact that you later on get the hovercraft, because the hovercraft can go over both land and water. So, I mean, it basically defeats the purpose of having the impactor, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what it's called in this game, or in this version of the translation. So, I thought that was kind of weird. And yeah, like quality of life improvements that I'm not sure were in the original game, like when you're buying weapons or armor for your guys, and it lists which characters can use which. But one thing that I would say would be better is, and just saw my little art money thing right there. That oh geez, I'm gonna get distracted now. So before I say what I was going to say, it would have been nice to see if what you were buying before you bought it would have been an improvement, like maybe highlight it in a different color, like if it was bad, like if an armor would lower your defense, then it would be shaded in red, or if it increased your defense, it'd be shaded in green or something, or something like that. Yeah, you see that. I just increased my meseta, I think that's what they call it. Um, But the thing is, the money thing, that was actually kind of confusing, because normally, it's one of the first things that I do when I play a game, increase and then freeze the amount of money that I have. But it was a 4-bit hex address, which, I mean, 1 bit is like 255 max. 2-bit I think is like something like 65,530 or something like that. So I was thinking like 4 bits should basically go like well over a million, right? But it basically froze at about, and it varies. Like sometimes it was like 35,000 or 65,000. I think it might have been 65,000, or maybe that was the game that I played before. But really convoluted and confusing trying to find the value and freeze it so that I would have infinite money, because a lot of the cheats in RetroArch's cheat bank, some of them were console made, like RetroArch made, with hex values, and the others were like older Game Genie codes that were like 8-digit alphanumeric with a dash in between them, and none of those codes worked. So I thought that I actually wouldn't be able to play this game, because I was using those codes. They didn't seem to work. They would muck up all of the graphics and everything, and it would freeze and glitch out. So that was also a bit of confusion there. So I realized that the only codes that really worked were I believe that they are eh, maybe 8, 10, or 12 digits with a colon, and then like something like FF for like infinite and stuff. So those are the retro arch style console cheats that I decided to use. So I had to always sort through them, and they were really poorly labeled. Like, what does Boko experience mean? Like, what does Boko mean? Like, is that Japanese for a lot or something like that, right? So I mean, it was basically just me stumbling through these things, and then it's like a whole lot of HP and TP cheats where it's like you could say like which character slot they go to or which character they are, because you always end up meeting the different characters. See, this is what I'm talking about, right? The no random attacks one is definitely a good thing that I've liked using since I've gotten into playing RPGs more. And yeah, no, like now that I have the cheats that give me infinite experience, and I can basically level up to the top level within the span of one single battle. I mean, I like Japanese style RPGs and everything, but I feel like, again, like they, for too long, the grindy aspect of them was around. It should have been worked out of that uh, genre of games very, very early on, right? I mean, they didn't want you to beat it too quickly, probably because you might return it, or you might beat it within the 2-day rental period, depending if it was on Blockbuster or Rogers Video where I am. But again, it's like, just like add more to the game, right? Like add more story, add more quests and everything like that, right? Like make sure you can't just blaze through right to the end without doing this, that, or the other thing previously. But so yeah, no, I would definitely use no random battles, because it basically, like, I find myself getting lost in dungeons really, really easily. So the no random battles thing always keeps me kind of grounded, like knowing where I am, especially that one temple where I think you fight Dark Force one of the times. It's that really convoluted inside outside temple, and like with all the different treasures in it. Like I literally had to watch a YouTube video of somebody else playing through it, and then I just basically copied his moves as he was moving, like, and I would play it slightly slower so I'd always be kind of ahead of him, because I would not have been able to figure that out on my own. So that's definitely helpful there. Um, but yeah, no. Even with all the cheats there, like I especially found myself, kind of worrying about how much money I had, especially because buying new things, they were actually pretty expensive, and I would try searching for the value for the Meseta, which would is over like 300 to 400,000, and I just would not be able to find it in Art Money, and I cannot for the life of me figure out RetroArch's cheat search function. So yeah, no, I really had to manage, like, because sometimes I would just, oh, geez, my inventory's full, can't get any more stuff, so I'll just drop everything, even though what I should have been doing is selling it to get money back, because let me tell you, I wish I had sold that stuff to get my money back. Um, but yeah, no, and then Dark Force, like, you fight him like four or five times, it's kind of repetitive, honestly. Like Zio could have been a better bad guy. Like he could have been the main bad guy. It's always just Dark Force this, Dark Fact that, and everything like that. Not. Oh, geez, there goes the everything like that thing, huh? But yeah, just not very creative, honestly. Because there's, as I said, Dark Fact and Dark Force and Dark this, that, and the other thing. Uh, there you go. Uh, but yeah, no. Sega, as I said, they get a lot of things right, but not perfect. They can never get things perfectly right. And like Rune, like I thought that maybe Rune was like Zio in disguise, maybe, uh, because he was kind of like all secretive and mysterious and stuff like that. But no, nothing like that ever happened. And again, it's like you think that being the reincarnation of a great and powerful wizard like Lutz, you'd think he'd be able to heal the ailing Alice, but nope, nope, couldn't do that. Just had to let her die. I'm still mad about that. Not gonna give up on that one, but above all else, especially compared to the third game, it was a whole lot better. I loved the cutscenes, the cinematics, and everything. I liked the art style and everything. I liked the characters' personalities, at least those who did have personalities, and I really did enjoy this game. And I felt that it was an enormous improvement over the previous games, and honestly, it should have led to an even greater, more widely expanded series that should have uh, continued well into the 90s and into the 2000s, probably continuing right through till today on all the subsequent platforms, even after Sega destroyed itself with the Dreamcast, which is a console that I still like, right? I like all Sega consoles. There's very few consoles that I actually dislike, which is good, proves that I like diversity. That's some kind of diversity that I can get behind video games. Yeah, video game systems, yeah. But All right, so it looks like I'm coming up nearing to the end of this here. So I will say that yeah, I liked the game, liked the characters, liked the gameplay and how it functions and stuff like that. Some problems, especially Alice dying, but at the end of the day, respect for keeping permadeaths. But so I would say, yeah, this it was a good experience and I enjoyed it. So I will say, here I go. Thanks for watching, and Skwatter out. Oh yeah, that's how I'm gonna end it. Now I'm in darkness. Ha ha ha. Bye bye.